All right, let's talk about Nitro. Also a good show. Did they not air Larry Zbyszko's comments about Louis Piccoli? Did I somehow miss them?
Oh, there were comments.
Where? When?
It was right after the opening monologue by Hogan. We'll get to that in a second. Hollywood Hogan and Eric Bischoff came out to start the show.
Well, first they had a 3-bell salute for Louis.
That's correct.
3 bells. Then they had thunder clips, of all things, where they announced that Savage and Hogan versus Luger and Sting was going to be signed for the main event to solve this problem they've all been having. Mm-hmm. Hogan had wanted an apology from Savage, and Savage very sincerely apologized and then punched him and punched Eric. Randy Savage was awesome. And next thing you know, the NWO came out.
Right.
So where's Larry's thing?
It's coming up, Brian.
How did I miss this?
Well, it wasn't spotlighted by any means, but we'll get to it in just a second. NWO comes out. Hogan threatens Bret Hart. He says he's going to throw around as much money as possible to get Nick Patrick to be the official referee for his match against Sting at Super Bowl 8. He then talks about Savage.
He says, and I quote, that Randy Savage is a dummy and he's going to kick his butt.
Yeah.
Man. It's fighting words.
He says he plans to beat up Sting and Lex Luger all by himself. He isn't going to need Savage there. They showed George Steinbrenner in the audience. And here, Tony asked Larry Zbyszko to share some thoughts on Louis Piccoli.
Well, what'd he say? I didn't hear it.
Larry says, out of respect to the family, he's just going to let it go.
That's right. Nice.
What a jackass.
You know, I may have been ranting in my notes about the opening segment and missed it. Because going back to that NWO segment, before Larry made his comments here, Hogan is going to be facing Sting, right?
At Super Brawl, yes.
So Hogan calls out Savage.
Right.
And they're going to have a tag match later.
Correct. Against Luger and Sting.
So Savage comes out and he vows to beat up Luger and Sting all by himself, and then he wants Hogan. Right?
Correct.
Okay, so the whole point of all of this is, the storyline here is that Sting, who we spent all of 1997 building up to win the world title, and who now is going to have a match with Hulk Hogan for the title at the next pay-per-view, as well as Lex Luger, who was the first guy to beat Hulk Hogan for the title, and then quickly lost it. These two men are afterthoughts.
Mm-hmm.
In the whole storyline with Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage.
Right.
That's bullshit.
No baby faces on this show, Brian. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Let's talk about Goldberg and Hugh Morris.
It's a rematch from Goldberg's either first or second match last September.
Something like that.
Okay. This went 56 seconds. Goldberg hit a spear, and you'll never guess, but he pinned him after the jackhammer.
Show did.
Is there anything else to say about this?
Let's talk about Hall and Nash and the commentators. They come out and they say, we want the Steiners tonight for the tag team titles.
Correct.
And Tony says, well, far be it from me to interrupt, but you know you've got a match with them at Super Brawl. And Nash says, yeah, well, we want it tonight. Kevin Nash, this was such a horrible promo. Like, if it were anybody else and Kevin Nash was watching on the monitor, he would convince Bischoff to never let this person cut a promo on television ever again. He was so fucking terrible. And boy, I'm going to take it out on him later. All my anger towards FedEx.
You know, sometimes when you're in awe of a person, you look past their faults.
In awe? Who's in awe of Kevin Nash?
Eric Bischoff. He loved this man.
Sickening.
Isn't it?
You know what? Speaking of sickening, Nash is lucky because before his match, I saw Sick Boy against Mark Starr. God bless this guy. He was so horrible.
Here's what I wrote about this match. Sick Boy won with a pedigree in 3 minutes and 28 seconds.
Dude, Sick Boy. You know how you always hear people talk about the power plant, and it's always like, God, who the hell came out of the power plant? Goldberg? Is there anybody else? Well, here's somebody else. Sick Boy came straight out of the power plant. I'm sure the dude had great cardio. I'm sure this guy could do rope drills like nobody's business.
He was in shape.
He could not work a lick. He couldn't hit the ropes. He did the gimmick where you try and hit the ropes, but you miss the top rope and your head snaps underneath.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
God-awful pedigree. Like, everything he did was terrible in this match. God bless him. I'm sure he's a great fella. I hope he had a wonderful Valentine's Day with his family.
Uh-huh.
But boy, was he terrible.
Looks a little bit like Adam Cole.
Adam Cole? What are you talking about?
Well, that's what he kind of looked like.
Give me a break. Now let's talk about Hall and Nash.
In the face, not in the work.
I'm going to keep going.
Okay, go ahead.
Hall and Nash are the top heels in the tag team division and two of the top heels on the show.
Correct.
They come out, and Hall does a survey bearing WCW, and everybody chants along. And they cheer. Of course, Hall, he has no problem selling for these guys. Not Nash.
Wrestling Public Enemy, by the way. I don't know if you got that in.
Hall gets in there. He's bumping for Johnny Grunge and Rocco Rock. Bumping all over for him. Nash gets in, just starts booting them. They all fall down. Finally, Nash grabs Rocco, power bombs him over the top rope through Grunge and a table. Of course, the powerbomb is banned, and every time the guy does a powerbomb, he's fined $50,000. So he's Stone Cold Steve Austin here. Powerbombs this guy over the top, so not only are you powerbombing a guy with an illegal move, over the top rope, breaking a table, and winning. I guess he didn't win. They were DQ'd or whatever, but point of this is, the place goes absolutely nuts for the guy. Now, I don't want to hear the Stephanie McMahon bullshit about how he's only doing what he was told to do. If you're a low-card geek, then when someone tells you what to do, you do it.
Yeah.
But when you're a top guy, or when you're the boss's daughter, and someone tells you something to do and it's stupid, you say, no, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. That hurts the talent. It's a stupid storyline. But no, Nash, getting himself over.
Oh, yeah. And when he did this powerbomb on Rocco, you could see the fear in Rocco's eyes as his head was pointed straight down for the table. He grabbed the top rope in fear, and thank God he was able to crane his neck in such a way that he didn't drop head first down into Johnny Grunge onto the table. Anyway, they cuffed Nash after the match and led him away, and he screamed, Attica, Attica, over and over again.
Listen, I'm glad the guy made a lot of money, but Kevin Nash has got to be the most overrated performer ever in the history of this business. I can't think of anybody that comes close.
We then had Mike Enos making his triumphant return against Barry Horowitz.
Well, first we had Nick Patrick and Gene. Nick Patrick still can referee.
I missed that. I apologize.
Conspiracy says, compares himself to Bill Clinton, who, I swear to God, he claimed the president was defamed and talked about fake news and media misinformation.
How ironic.
I swear to God. And then we had Mike Enos and Barry Horowitz. Barry, horrible. It's terrible here.
Mike Enos, why did they bring this guy back?
What's wrong with Mike Enos?
He's not very good.
I'm watching Kevin Nash. What the fuck's wrong with Mike Enos?
Enos won with a power slam in a minute 50. Ridiculous.
Why? It was Barry Horowitz. Well, you wanted to go longer?
Don't you remember Barry from the WWF back in the day? He patted himself on the back and actually had a hand.
He was a jobber.
Yeah.
And then he got a what could I describe him as? He got a Zack Ryder push for a short period of time.
He's Jinder Mahal.
And then was back.
Next up, we had Yuji Nagata.
No, Mongo and Bulldog got into a brawl backstage, which was absolutely horrible, but hilarious.
Yeah, this involved coffee.
Bulldog's backstage with the coffee. Mongo walks up, calls him a mongrel, because he's the Bulldog.
I get it.
They got into a brawl, and coffee went flying, and it was hideous, but I loved it.
I see why I didn't write it down. Next up, we had Yuji Nagata versus La Parka. Now, apparently, La Parka is in some kind of a feud with the Disco Inferno over dancing.
Yes, that's correct.
The announcers referred to La Parka as the chairman of the WCW because he hits people with a chair.
Yeah, the chairman.
Anyway, they had an okay match until Disco interfered, dropped Laparca with a chair shot behind the ref's back. Then Yuji slapped on the Nagata lock and won the match in 3 minutes and 35 seconds.
The Nagata lock, cooler than the Fearless lock, might add.
Okay. We then get word that Bret Hart is in the building.
Oh, man.
Next up, we had the Ultimo Dragon versus Kidman.
So they announced that Nash, after just a few weeks, has been fined $200,000 for powerbombing, folks.
Correct.
Thought, how the fuck did they go out of business? That's impossible. They lost even more money than I thought.
He's actually costing himself more money than WCW's paying him at this point.
It's crazy.
Anyway, Kidman got the heat with a hot shot. Kidman played heel this entire match, choking and cheating and whatnot. Dragon fired up and delivered his kick combo. Turned into a pretty nice match with back and forth action. Kidman avoiding the sleeper at all costs. Avoided it once, twice, and then the Dragon countered a suplex and was finally able to grab the Dragon sleeper and tap him out. 6 minutes and 52 seconds in a pretty good little match.
This was a very good match. Kidman has improved dramatically. Dragon is awesome. Had a very fun little match here. This was 2 thumbs up.
This was a good match, yes. Only to be outshined later. We then had Mean Gene. He brought out U.S. champion Diamond Dallas Page. Page says the only way he can get Chris Benoit at his best for Super Bowl VIII is if he and Benoit actually take out Raven and Perry Saturn because they had jumped them on Thunder the week before. He said that match is coming your way this Thursday, that match being Benoit and DDP against Perry and Raven. Raven seems to have an issue with this, and he comes into the ring. Saturn shows up as well, but before they can jump DDP, Benoit slid into the ring and scared them off. They retreated, as would any normal man.
All right, let's talk about the greatest match of all time.
I love this match with all my heart, Brian Alvarez.
Yeah, you should. Meng versus Barbarian. This was set up on Thunder. The entire angle was Meng just attacked the Barbarian because he's a savage. That's what I got out of it.
Okay.
There was no turn.
No.
Meng went crazy, and Jimmy Hart tried to pull him off, and he wouldn't stop. And then Barbarian came out, trying to pull him off, and Meng responded by attacking him.
Meng going crazy.
Because he's a savage.
Meng going crazy, by the way. Very short trip.
They had the wildest, ugliest fight you ever saw. They were working... I mean, they were so blown up about 2 minutes in. But, of course, they just kept going. They fought through their utter exhaustion. They kept pawing at each other. Meng was doing the sumo slaps. They were brawling on the mat and standing up and hitting each other and whacking each other. Finally, Jimmy Hart hits the ring. He's got to put a stop to this. He's got a wooden chair. Waffles Meng with it. It's supposed to break over the dude's head, but it doesn't. Right. So he swings it again, and this time it does break over his head. Meng doesn't sell it. He puts the Tongan death grip on Jimmy. Barbarian responds by kicking Meng, kicks him again, and again, and after the 4th kick, he pins him. What is wrong with this business that we don't have matches like this anymore? There was no, hey, we're going to start with a lockup, and then we're going to roll around on the mat in the lockup, and then the heel's going to get the heat, right. And then the babyface is going to make a comeback. Then we're going to trade. There was none of that bullshit. It was 2 dudes had a fight, and one guy got kicked in the head 4 times and lost. And it was over in 4 minutes. They didn't go too long, that's for goddamn sure. It was beautiful. It was awesome. And let me tell you something.
Okay.
Because I'm in a mood today.
I know.
What match was it? There was a women's match on the pay-per-view Sunday. May have been Becky and Mickey.
Okay. The opener.
It's always the women that do this now. I don't know why. But, hey, let's lock up, and then we'll we'll somehow get to our stomachs while still locked up.
Yes.
And then we'll log roll while in a lockup. And we'll end up on the floor and we'll still be locked up.
Correct.
Now, somebody must have done this in some match for the first time, and like no one had ever seen it before, and they thought it was so cool, and now everybody wants to do it, or it gets repeated. This is so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, if you've never engaged in fisticuffs and or physical confrontation before, it probably looks cool. But you know what a goddamn lockup is? You tie up with the person so you can grab a hold.
Right.
Why the fuck would you both end up on the mat and still be tied up? And then roll like two logs and not let go and roll out of the ring and continue tying up. It's preposterous. I hate that spot.
I wrestled in high school, and I can tell you, I never saw that.
No, it would never happen. It's beyond ridiculous.
Yeah, this Meng Barbarian match, I think I said it. I said everything I needed to say. 0 punches pulled and 0 F's given.
It's great.
It was a great match. We then had what was supposed to be Perry Saturn versus the Disco Inferno. During Disco's entrance, La Parka came out and waffled him in the back with a chair all the way down the aisle. Rick Martel then sprints down the ring and said he was there to replace the Disco Inferno. And Tony reminds the audience that he has a match tonight.
Yeah, why did this dumbass do this? Another dumb babyface. You have a U.S. title or a TV title or whatever the damn belt Booker T has. There's too many of them.
It's TV title.
And so, like, before you have that match later, you run down to replace Disco Inferno in a match with Saturn? What?
Got me, dude.
So he lost. When Saturn managed to mess up his own Rings of Saturn. How you mess up your own finish? I don't know. That's a tough one, but he did.
We then had Kurt Hennig versus Bobby Eaton. And I was so looking forward to this match, thinking Bobby Eaton, one half of the legendary Midnight Express, the best puncher in all of wrestling, and Kurt Hennig, one of the greatest workers of our all time.
It was all right.
It wasn't good, Brian.
Come on, it was all right. I know Eaton went up heavy for the perfect plex, which is very difficult to miss time. And I think Hennig apologized to him afterwards, so maybe it was Kurt's fault.
It was very sad. This match went 2 minutes and 46 seconds, and Bobby got pinned with a Hennig plex and looked bad doing it. There was nothing to it. We then had WCW Tag Team Champions, the Steiner Brothers, versus my favorite team, Vicious and Delicious.
Oh, give me a break. These two guys are fine. So what the hell? The Steiners are back on the same page again.
Kinda, yeah.
All is fine in the world. Rick makes comeback. NWO hits the ring for the DQ.
Mm-hmm.
That's our follow-up for all of those weeks of Rick and Scott not getting along.
Well, this week, Rick tagged in Scott on numerous occasions, but Scott let Rick do a lot of the heavy lifting. He didn't do much when he got in other words. Then when the NWO actually attacked, they never laid a hand on Scott Steiner. Foreshadowing. Another stupid DQ finish, by the way. They showed a recap from 3 weeks ago on Thunder when Saturn attacked Rick Martel and threw him through a glass door backstage. Bringing us to the WCW World Television Title Champion Booker T versus Rick Martel.
So weird. Martel starts off, he attacks him before the bell, starts stomping a mud hole in him.
Yes.
Acting like a heel. Then he starts selling for a while. Then he starts a babyface comeback, but then it turns out it's not a babyface comeback, it's the Heat. And then Booker made a babyface comeback. Maybe they were trying to have a babyface match, I don't know.
I don't think so.
Saturn.
Martel was poking him in the eye, throwing him into the guardrail. This is not what a babyface does, Brian.
Saturn jumps up on the apron, waffles Martel. Booker comes flying in with a kick. He hits Saturn. I think he was aiming for Martel. It's not made clear.
Right.
Crotches the ropes. Martel puts him in a crab, wins the TV title. Rarely have I seen a match that was simultaneously pretty good And also, pretty bad. It was very impressive that they managed to pull that off in a single match.
How did you think Martel was a babyface here when he was doing all these dirty, underhanded tactics and he jumped Booker T before the bell?
Well, he's been a babyface since he came back, and he was a babyface in the match earlier in the evening.
That's a fair point, Brian.
That's a pretty fucking good point if I do say so myself.
Okay.
Now, later they announce that they are changing the pay-per-view match. It is now Rick Martel, Booker T, and Saturn in a three-way.
Correct. No.
It's three-way.
No.
What do you mean, no?
Here's what it is. Gene interviewed JJ to get clarification on the television title match scheduled for Super Brawl. Dylan decides the new TV champion Rick Martel and Booker T will have a rematch, and the winner will wrestle Perry Saturn.
No, I don't care what he said. That's not what happened. It was a three-way. Okay. He must have fucked it up then, because they have a three-way at the pay-per-view, and that's the match where Rick Martel fucks his leg up.
Okay.
And so Booker and Saturn finish the match, and they do the title change. And that was the beginning of the end of Rick Martel's career. He had one match after that and hurt himself again, and he was retired.
That's not what they said, though.
Well,
they must have
it's
changed.
Nitro.
They must have changed something on the fly. Anyway, between all that, we had Gene Okerlund. He brought out Bret Hart. Bret said that Hollywood Hogan is making up lies about him because he's scared. He says Hogan doesn't need to call Bret's name any more than twice for him to meet him face to face. Bret says Hogan has been hiding from him for years, and it's time to step up to the plate.
So then,
yes,
the crowd is buzzing. At first I thought there was a fight in the crowd, but instead a man entered the ring. And of course I have done 2 editions of The Death of WCW as well as an audiobook. I must now write the book again.
You forgot something?
To point out the real turning point in the Monday Night Wars when somebody thought it'd be a fucking bright idea to raid the DOA.
Yeah.
Excuse me, they raided Crush?
Sure.
They raided Crush. Crush shows up, pretends he's Bret's friend. It's a swerve. The NWO attacks. Brian Adams, Crush, the newest member of the NWO. Ric Flair makes the save. At least the good news is Bret and Flair are back on TV now. Mm-hmm. But oh my God. They raided the DOA. Who's next? The Headbangers?
That never happens.
Think about that.
I don't want to. They got enough useless talent in this business on this side of the show. Okay. Then up next, after the JJ debacle thing that we just discussed, my favorite match of this week that I watched, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Jericho versus Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko.
Holy shit, what a match.
This tore down the house. Benoit and Guerrero began, and immediately, best thing I saw all my life. Babyface is firmly in control. They did a great spot where Guerrero tried to slide under Benoit's legs, but Benoit reached between his legs and grabbed Eddie by the hair, pulled him through his legs, wrapped his arms around his waist, and hit a deadlift German. It was awesome. He then had Guerrero reversing a suplex, and he hit a brainbuster on Malenko. Went up top, hit the frog splash, and as he came down, Benoit flew through the air and hit Eddie with a headbutt as he was trying to pin Malenko. Great spot. Jericho came flying with a missile dropkick. He hooked on the Lion Tamer. Guerrero wiped out Benoit with a flying dive from the top rope to the floor. Meanwhile, Malenko and Guerrero are reversing each other's pin attempt until Malenko rolls through and slapped on the Texas Cloverleaf for the immediate tap out. This match was a thing of beauty.
This match was awesome. I have nothing to add. Obviously, Benoit and Eddie, 2 of the greatest workers ever in the history of pro wrestling. It was evident 19 years ago. It's evident today. Those 2 are better than anybody in wrestling today.
Absolutely.
Find me somebody who is better than Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero in 1998. A better worker. Find me someone. I love Okada. Love Omega. Love Tanahashi. Love Rollins and Roman Reigns.
He's pretty good.
All these great workers today, but nobody is as good as these two guys. And because of a lot of different reasons, nobody ever will be again. Well, at least for a while. Everything comes around.
And then things got weird. Right before the main event, Eric Bischoff comes out all by himself and says Hollywood is running late.
Let's talk about the important thing for this match.
He said he had to write $50,000 in checks to cover Kevin Nash. What?
Well, because Nash can't afford it, so Hogan promised to pay his fines. Hogan's out there writing checks. Yeah, he's got to get Nash out of jail.
He's running late, and Eric had to go out there and stall.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the important thing here. Okay. It's Hogan and Savage against Luger and Sting. They fly in Michael Buffer.
Yeah.
This guy's got nothing to do on a good day.
Except for cash checks.
He says, hey, let's get ready to rumble. This man is from the four corners of the earth. He does his usual bullshit, but not tonight. Not tonight. He says, let's get ready to rumble. Guys start coming down to the ring. He's fixing to do his big-ass introduction that he gets paid so much money for. And a fucking brawl starts in the aisle.
Yeah.
So Michael Buffer got flown all the way to wherever the hell they were here tonight. The State Fair.
No, they were in Tampa, Florida at the Steinbrenner Events Center.
Whatever. He gets in the middle of the ring. He says, let's get ready to rumble. And that's all he has to do because a fight starts. And then he just says, let the match begin. And he's out of here.
And a cash register rang and he went.
God damn, what a life.
Yeah, so Hogan and Savage jumped Luger and Sting at the entrance. Attacked him from behind. They take turns fighting in the ring and outside the ring. Brawl ensues. Finally, it breaks down into a tag match. Hogan is ignoring Savage on the outside as he's selling, gabbing with Bischoff, whatever. Finally, Randy Savage just slaps Hogan in the back for the quote-unquote tag. Hogan comes in. He hits a running clothesline, series of elbow drops, misses a leg drop. Lex makes a hot tag to Sting. Sting in there hits Hogan with a pair of Stinger splashes. Puts Hogan in the Scorpion Deathlock. Luger then grabs Savage as he's in the ring. Puts Savage in the torture rack. And then you'll never guess what happened, Brian.
All these assholes hit the ring for the DQ. And then the good guys clear the ring. Listen, let me tell you something, everybody. Let me tell you something. Now, granted, 1997 was a great year. 1997, there was a lot of great stuff in WWF and WCW.
Sure.
But now it's 1998. And right now, WWF in 1998, 19 years ago this week, is absolutely horrible. And Nitro is getting worse by the week. And in the case of Nitro, it continues to get worse and then gets much, much worse.
Ooh.
WWF, at least, the main event scene starts to get better.
Right.
But apparently the mid-card ain't getting better for a while.
No.
Or the low card. It's funny because the biggest problem with professional wrestling today, it's not the crowd. It's not the length of Raw, although those are both problems. This company today, WWE, they need a Steve Austin or a Rock.
You're absolutely right.
Or a Hulk Hogan in the NWO. But my point is, if they had one guy that was like the new Stone Cold Steve Austin, I mean, we would have such a fucking boom period. Yep. Because I realize it's Mania season, but WWE right now is so much better than Raw and Nitro 19 years ago this week. Right. It's not even funny. It's not even a comparison. It's so much better. Yeah, the show's too long. Yeah, they're building around Roman Reigns. Yeah, there's a problem here and there. Yeah, some old guys have to come back to get people excited. But the shows themselves are so much better than these old Raw and Nitros right now. They just don't have a guy. And John Cena's on his way out more so than ever. So there are going to be doldrums for a while. But if they can find one guy, not 5 guys, not 3 guys, not even 2 guys, if they can find one guy that they can get over to the masses, then we're all going to enjoy a great period of wrestling. Because goddamn, this is the fucking boom period we're talking about every week. It's horrible.
It's not good.
Holy smokes. But they had stars, and so it was a major big-time period.
The only good thing about this, after the DQ finish with the NWO, Bret Hart and Ric Flair hit the ring, and the babyfaces stood tall in the ring. And
it's still the same old thing every week, though.
Yeah, it's going to be back to the same old next week. It doesn't matter if the heels stand tall or the babyfaces stand tall.
And that's a retro show, everybody. Holy smokes. What a week 19 years ago. But we're on our way to WrestleMania, and Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon and their feud. It's got to be better than all of this.
Oh, it is.
Sure it is. So we can all look forward to that. Said everybody, check out the store. Of all the weeks, of all the days to buy a -5 stars shirt, I'd be happy to sell one to you. Go to my Twitter at Brian Alvarez. We also have a Retros t-shirt that Craig has designed. That's for sale right now as well. Head up there and check that out. There's a lot of great shirts. Go to at Brian Alvarez on Twitter. It's, what do you call it? Pinned? A pinned tweet?
Yes.
It's pinned up there at the top. We've got a Retros shirt. We've got a -5 stars shirt, which, by the way, I swear to God, well on its way to being the top-selling shirt in the whole store. Like I knew it would. Got a Reading Is Your Friend, Figure 4 Weekly, Wrestling Observer, Granny's Guilt Trips, Team Viggity. Check them all out, everybody, at the store. You can also go to f4wonline.com/shirts. It'll take you right there.
You can also go to prowrestlingtees.com and just do a search for Pro Wrestling
Come
Observer.
on. Let's do it the easy way.
Okay.
At Brian Alvarez on Twitter. I'm trying to amass followers as well. Because whenever I have a problem, it's the only way I can get anything done. Is complain on Twitter. Works every time now. Thank God, that's the one good thing about Twitter. All right, everybody, we're out of here. We'll talk to you again next time.
Good night and goodbye.